your potential as a coach. As you're making it into the room, love for you to do a couple of things. One is just to say hello, tell us where you're joining us from. One thing that you're excited about that you feel life and momentum on. We'd love to see you fill up the comments here. Also, today's going to be a Q&A. So I'm going to answer as many of your questions as we possibly can about coaching related things. So anything on the coaching skill side of things, anything that's business related with regard to coaching and everything. We want to really help you as much as we can with the time that we are here together. So let me look at some of the questions that are on here. Oh, there's a bunch of them already popping up. So go ahead and start popping your hellos in there. We love to interact with you, even if you don't have questions and you're just checking it out. We love to interact with you as we're in here. So where you're joining us from, one thing that you're excited about and you feel life on. I see Elron in the room. Welcome, Elron and Connie and Corina. That's awesome. Welcome, all of you. Anybody else, as you're making it in the room, ask your question and also throw in the comments where you're joining us from and one thing that you're excited about today. I got a little bit of feedback. So what we're going to do just really quick, I'm just going to step off camera and make sure that we have our feedback issue taken care of, because you might not be able to hear it, but I can definitely hear some feedback coming in over here, and I don't know that we're going to be able to get rid of it. So sorry. So let me jump into some of the questions, at least one question that was sent in ahead of time. And this one is from a viewer that says, I have a client that regularly vents and takes up most of the coaching session. We're not even getting around to action items. Okay, so concern that's here is someone's coming and obviously they're showing up to the session and they got a lot of stuff going on, whether that be anger, anxiety, something. I mean, here's the reality though, is that we don't want to assume the worst about a client if they show up in this sort of condition. But what's true is that life kind of happens to people all the time, right? Life's happening to people even as we speak. And I'm just going to kill that thing over there because I definitely hear feedback. So what happens is that life happens. Somebody might come to the coaching appointment. They had a really bad argument with their spouse. They might show up to the coaching appointment and something happened at work. They could have gotten a wreck. They could have been on the way to the appointment and gotten a speeding ticket or something like that. So there's all of these things that are constantly going on in people's lives. And when they show up to that appointment, they might be in turmoil. They might be in anxiety. They might be angry. They might be frustrated. But here's the reality of that. You can't really help someone when they are in that state, because when someone's in that state, let me see if I can just draw a little picture for you really quick. So here's a brain here. I mean, the openness that we kind of need to go on, I want you to think of all of these things that kind of happen to people as weights on someone's mind. And as long as there is a weight that's going on in there, it's going to cut off the creative side of someone. And so when you can't access the creative side, when things are kind of dull, when you feel confusion, and here's the thing, is that somebody might show up to the coaching appointment. That brain looks like broccoli. Shiny things, huh? When somebody shows up to that appointment, you may not know that something just happened, but intuitively, a coach generally will know. I can think back a few years ago, I was coaching a particular business client. She was amazing, brilliant, sharp, working on some really big things. But I remember one particular appointment that she showed up and she looked fine. Like she looked like she had everything together and she was on time, all of that other stuff. There was nothing outwardly that showed me that she was out of it or restless or frustrated or anything. But there was this energy in the air. That's the only way that I can really describe it. There was like this confusion that was in the air. And it can be so bad. There can be such a cloud of confusion or this weightiness around someone that it'll actually impact and actually impair your ability to ask questions as a coach. And so being able to recognize that, because sometimes people aren't showing up and they're telling you what's going on, you have to be able to identify that. So if I notice that there's a lot of blockages, if I notice that there is confusion that's going on there, I can't. Here's what is true about coaching. With coaching, we don't get paid to listen to everybody's problems. That's not what you get paid for. You don't get paid to counsel people through their problems. You don't get paid to have somebody just vent all the time every time that they get with you and rant about whatever is going on in their life or whatever. That is not what we get paid to do. Now, what I would say for this particular coach who says, I have a client that regularly vents, why would they do something like that? Why are they showing up to the appointment like that? Well, someone who regularly vents with a coach, they're getting benefit out of that, because as a coach, if you do not take them through a process towards their goals and they walk away with accountability and action steps, you have not coached anyone. So if you sat there that entire coaching appointment, and I'm not saying anything bad to the individual who asked this question, I'm just saying generally speaking, so we all are on the same page. If you sit with a client, whether they're venting or not, and you did not push them towards their goal, you didn't help them process what they really want, to look through options and to walk away with action steps, that is not coaching, and it's not a coaching conversation. So if someone shows up and they are venting, they're not really thinking about steps or anything else. They may actually feel good walking away from the coaching appointment. They might have thought, oh, that person's a great listener. They're a great coach, even though they didn't decide on anything and move forward in their life, because venting does have a therapeutic benefit out of it. What I would say is that there's not really anything wrong with venting. And here's why. Because when people walk around in their life and they never deal with the stuff that's there, it kind of builds up over time. And what I want you to think of all of this weightiness as being ultimately, this is the way that we'd see it in neuroscience, is it ultimately becomes a lot of clutter that happens in someone's brain. Think of it like, for those of you who one day you go in and your computer's not working really well, and or your phone's not working well, and you notice that it's slow. Usually if you'll do a reboot, it clears what they'll call the scratch disk or some of those things. It'll clear all of those extra processes, windows that you forgot that you left open, programs that you left open. It'll clear all of that. And what'll happen is that you get all of the full function again to be able to do what you need to do on your computer. This is what we do as coaches. Now, because here's the thing, is that they have all this clutter, game over for your coaching appointment. Game over that you can't just say, well, you know what? I don't listen to people vent. So you just need to suck it up and let's work on this. It's not going to work, because their creative process is effectively shut off. So what do we do? In exactly the same way that we do reboots, we do a thing called clearing. Now, I don't want to confuse clearing with some of the clearing stuff that's out there, because there's a Middle Eastern or an Eastern version of clearing. There are actually some clearing deep techniques that help people deal with trauma and some of those other things, because there's a lot of techniques along with it, and they'll use that same word. What I'm telling you here, now I'm not going to say that it's not a good idea to learn about those things and to find out how you can apply those things. There are some people who that is how they function as therapists, that they do clearing. And there's some coaches that base all of their coaching around clearing somehow, but I haven't really looked really deep into it. But what I would say is that clearing in the way that we're describing it is what we essentially want to do during that coaching appointment, is to remove the clutter, remove the weightiness, so that we can open up the creative space to be able to go after things again. And so what we have to do when somebody is in front of me, because just like this viewer said, this person's showing up every time and just venting, we have two options in the way that we deal with somebody who's got mental clutter, anxiety, and all those other things. So the way that we're going to approach this is going to be one of two things. One is, would you like to vent for the next 5? So we're going to give them 5 minutes to vent. We give them permission to vent. Some people don't feel appropriate venting. It just depends on what your background is and everything else. But when we recognize all this clutter and we notice that there's a bunch of stuff going on and we're not able to make any headway, it's kind of fruitless to keep going on in the coaching appointment until we deal with it. So we call it out. Hey, it sounds like you got a lot of weighty kinds of stuff. Are you aware of what that is? If they're not aware, if they start telling you about it, I'm like, okay, how about I'll give you permission to vent and you can say whatever you want, cuss, whatever you want to do for the next 5 minutes. I want you just to be able to get it out. And we can ask questions as they're going along to help them get it out because they're already processing it in here, but they haven't gotten to talk to anybody. They haven't really gotten it out. And so what we're going to do is for 5 minutes, we're just going to let them go nuts, go crazy. But see, we have an objective with what we're doing. We're not allowing the whole coaching session to be a venting session. We've defined the boundaries because that's what a coach does, is that as you're guiding people through the conversation, you're creating boundaries because we need to get them back in a creative space, but we're going to reboot everything. We're going to clear all of the clutter out. Now, the other option that you do have, because if somebody wants to go past 5 minutes, then I would say we've got to make this goal-oriented. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if somebody comes up, you've got a goal that you're after, but they decide, because coaching's client-centered, so they determine the agenda. But they have to acknowledge that what we're here is a partnership to actually accomplish something. So what do we need to do in that event of trying to accomplish something? Well, if somebody comes out and they're venting about something, I'm going to say, okay, let me just say this on the front end. I know that we've been here and we've been tackling this particular goal, but would you like to talk about what's in the way in this area of life? And I'm going to help you think through it and develop a strategy so that you feel empowered in this situation in your life rather than feeling like you're a victim and you're reacting to things. That's what I can do. I can move. If it's not just venting, because this is what calls people out on things. Venting, let's create boundaries and we can make it appropriate for you to vent. But if you want to go past 5 minutes, then we need to make a decision that you're going to walk away more empowered than when you showed up. Because if somebody just rants, that's someone who for some reason feels like they're a victim and they feel powerless in the situation. So what we do need to do about that means that there's some belief systems in the way. That means that their approach to certain relationships and certain things is really not working for them. Because if they're mad, if they're angry, if they have anxiety, all of these fear-based kinds of things, then what we really need to do is we really need to give them the opportunity. Hey, would you like to develop yourself today? Make that a development goal. That today I help you process through that, and then you walk away with some action steps so you feel like not only are you not stressed anymore, but you feel like you are empowered in your life and you're going to operate differently in relationships and everything else. So we give them two options. That's the way that I would handle it if I had a client that was going like this. But please, 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 for all of you who are listening, don't just allow someone to hijack the session and just rant for an hour or 30 minutes or whatever. It's not helping them ultimately. Well, I mean, it is in the sense that there is a therapeutic benefit, but it's not coaching and it's not actually what you get paid for. And you'll walk away and you'll feel terrible about yourself because you know what your job is, even if they don't. So hopefully that is helpful. As you're making it in the room, make sure that you say hello. There's hello from Jacksonville, Arkansas. Welcome. Tisha says they need a therapist in addition to coaching. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not going to make that a I'm not going to say a blanket statement that everybody needs a therapist. Everybody has stuff that they're not really clearing out and dealing with, because I'd say that there's a lot of people who are dealing with frustration and anxiety, and they just never they need to have a process in their life. And here's the thing is, it's not always therapy that people need. Sometimes they just need to talk. And especially now, people aren't, and not even because of the crisis that we're in or whatever. But if I went back for years, people have gotten increasingly away from intimate relationships where they just talk to people and they have that kind of place to go to so that they are doing a reboot. And people every day, there are self-help techniques of just rebooting every day. If somebody went to bed at night and they decide, hey, I'm going to write everything down. So, because there's a lot of people who might deal with insomnia or just latent stress and they're not even in touch with it or whatever, may not need a therapist. They're probably powerful enough to just, hey, if I gave them one or two techniques and they're able to check in with those things, then they'll be fine. So, anyway, but I appreciate that. Let's see. Um, Todd says, hello from Kansas City. I'm excited about the opportunity to organize priorities and focus more on my coaching business. My question is, how do I get my spouse on board with me to go full time? Well, I'm not going to have a nice blanket, this is going to work every time, because I believe that anytime that you're trying to start out in business, that or in anything that you're going to do, that once you get married, if you've got a healthy relationship, then you can't just, hey, I'm going to go do this thing and it's not going to really matter unless there's extraordinary trust. There are certain things in my relationship with my wife and that she chooses certain things that she does, and we never have a conversation about it because that's her world and that's her thing. And same way in certain things, in certain big areas, even in our life. I mean, she doesn't really ask a whole lot about my business or any of those other kinds of things in terms of what I do on a daily basis. How's it going? Those kinds of conversations. But what it really comes down to is in just what you said there. How do I get my spouse on board with me to go full time? So that's the bigger question, is the full-time thing. That's what a conversation that I had to have with my wife. I would say for about 2 years, I wanted to quit my existing job and do anything else, like anything else. But the job at the time, because if I took you back, when I got into coaching, I actually started my coaching practice during the recession, the last recession. So we had lost everything in 2007. Like, we had completely lost everything. Like, I got laid off. It was gnarly time, a gnarly year, and really a gnarly couple of years during that time. Um, and so, uh, and so the thing is that we were looking for stability, and I needed to also know and be in touch with my wife. What are her values? What are her needs? And one of those things was going to be stability. But I also was looking for stability as well. I had to take a major pay cut and take a regular job. There's a lot of parts of that story. My wife had a health condition. The other thing is that there wasn't Obamacare, so I would not have been able to get health insurance for her to go out. So there was a lot of considerations that we had during that time, and I would say that we took a team approach to all of those things. One of those things being was that I needed to know what my wife uh, felt were important if we had different values about things. And I think that we were very much on the same page. Had a little bit of trauma of losing everything and having 2 kids and all of that other stuff. And so being able to keep a job while working as a coach part-time, that worked for us for a while until it didn't work for a while. Until it didn't work, and then I could go full-time. So I probably had about 2 years where I felt a little bit stifled, but I didn't have things resolved with how is this going to deal with insurance, and financially we weren't in the place where we needed to be for me able to safely pull the plug on things. And so what I would say is that when you go full time in something, it's usually looking at stuff as percentages of the income that you need. So what I did before I went full time, for one, I had a lot of great conversations with my wife. What makes her feel safe? What are our minimum needs as a family? All of those kinds of, what are our must-haves and what are our optional things that we don't really need? And I knew what that number was every month. I also got rid of some of the extras. We didn't have a whole lot of extras, but a lot of the extras that we were doing. And so over time, and my wife's more of a feeler, I'm more of a knower. It means that when I just sense that something's going on and I know, and I can't explain to people how I'm right, but I'm always right. Well, who's always right? But my knower, I can always trust it. I have a really strong intuition about things, particularly about business and a lot of other things. Kind of like I told people a few weeks ago, this downtime, this transition time, this global pause is only going to happen for a short time, and our economy is going to be rocking stronger than it ever has. If you're not listening to the fear voices, you can see that that's playing out right now. How did I know that? I had a really strong intuition about it, and we're going to watch that kind of play out over the next few weeks, and people are going to be in a better position than they ever have. That'll be one of the choices that coaches will have to make. Everything's kind of back. Am I going to continue working for someone else, or am I going to work as a part-time coach? So I would say that compromise between me and my wife was, hey, I'm going to make sure that this doesn't take up my side business. My coaching side business is not going to take over our life. You are number one priority in your health, and so are the kids. And knowing that we were on the same page, there was a little bit of compromise in that, but to know what our priorities are together, making that decision together, and then making a longer term plan. Like, I can remember, hey, I think I'm going full time in this thing, and my wife's like, hey, I don't think that it's time yet, but maybe in 3 months, not next month. And we negotiated that out, and she was right on. That was a thing of when we came into agreement and we came into oneness on that decision, and she felt supported and not me just going and doing my own thing. So what I would say in all of this, find out what is most important, where the fears are, negotiate risk. That's one of the things, is that you need to know, what are the risky points, what are the risky kinds of things. There's nothing wrong with having a coaching practice that is on the side. I did it. I was making more money part-time as a coach than I was working full-time, 160 hours out of the month. I was making more money taking a vacation day to go and do coaching in a corporate setting than I was in all the weeks that I was working during the month. And so it was amazing. It was an incredible position. And when I went full-time, my income as a coach more than doubled. So it took care of everything that I was making and then some within the first month or whatever. So you just have to know what their kind of leadings about things are. Because again, my wife's a feeler. So even if I know, I need to honor how she's wired, and I need to process that out with her over the next few months, because there's nothing that you need as you're starting your practice with regard to conflict with somebody that you love. Just gnarly. It's not the way that you want to start a business. So great question, though. All right, let's see what else I see. John says, it's an excellent time for a boot camp. Yes, it is. All right, can I pay the bills really quick? And then I'm going to keep answering questions. So let me get rid of that, and then you guys can see what I'm seeing. Thanks for bringing that up, John. So this weekend, boot camp time. What is the boot camp? What are we going to be doing during this time? It's April 24th through the 26th. So we're going to start on Friday night. We're going to do our first intro session. It's going to be about 2 hours long. And then we're going to go essentially 9 to 5 on Saturday and Sunday. Now, what can you expect during the boot camp? Here's what you can expect. Here's what we're covering. We're going to be covering what is coaching. We're going to cover how to listen on a transformational level. We're going to talk about the steps of a coaching session. We're going to talk about building a coaching framework that gets results. We're going to show you what focused, effective coaching looks like, that really cuts out the fluff. Because what I personally think is that there's a lot of coaches who run fluffy sessions that aren't really effective. We're going to show you how to be really effective, get better results for your clients. We're going to show you what high impact coaching looks like. We're going to teach you a couple of different coaching models. We're going to obviously cover all of the core skills and characteristics for breakthrough coaching. We're going to teach you the best practices for being an ethical coach. We're going to show you how to ask powerful questions. We're going to show you how to build coaching relationships that last. Because one of the really big goals for a coach is not just, hey, I've got a one-off, I've had a client for a couple of months and then it fizzles and they fade. We want to show you how to develop a coaching relationship that is truly transformational, that they go through the whole process, that they don't quit ahead of time. showing you how to do things so that you actually retain clients. Now, here's the other thing that I'll say about it. What is different between this and the life coach certification course? Well, we've never offered a boot camp before. And obviously, yes, it's live and it's going to be expanded training that isn't offered in our current life coach training course. Now, our life coach training course, certification course, all of that training is going to stay like it is, which is on demand, self-paced. This boot camp is going to be different. Imagine that as being the foundation, and we're going to have the launching point of essentially another like 15 to 20 hours because only thing that we can say always about training, and you would find this with any place, is that sometimes we're because we're doing live and interactive kinds of things at the end of each one of these sessions, I'm more than willing to answer more questions than what you paid for. So some of those sessions might last a little bit longer than 2 hours. The goal is we want to give you the information. We want to build your coaching muscles, and we want to answer your questions so you feel like you're getting supported and you're getting your money's worth and you're getting real clarity about things. What else? We're going to have live Q&As at the end of each one of those sessions. We're also going to do live coaching practice demos. That's not something that we currently offer in any of our programs, but what we're going to do is we're going to have time set aside where you're going to get to practice, be a practice coach or a practice client. And what we're going to do is the rest of us are going to be observing. And then at a certain point, we'll end the session. They're not going to be hour-long sessions, but we're going to put you in the driver's seat so you can kick the tires of the car and all of that other stuff. And then I can give you some feedback on what's working. Where do we see strength? What things could you really work on? We've never done this before. And so we're going to have that. What else? Well, life coach certification is included because you will get the life coach training course. You will get the exam. You will get a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com, all of that. And here's the extraordinary thing is it is only $247. Listen, here's the important thing. There is a link right now in the description of this event, this Facebook event. We don't even have 20 spaces available. People are jumping and grabbing this really quick. So if you're serious about it, if you're leaning towards this, you can get, what I'm saying is you can get trained and certified, not only by a internationally recognized school, but what I'm really comfortable of telling people is I'm a multi-six-figure coach. So the things that I do, I know work. I work with high-end clients who are really serious about results and they don't play. And so you're going to be able to learn these things and get trained and certified. You can knock all of this out. If you've Googled being a coach more than 1 or 2 times in your life, then that just means that you're in a procrastination state right now. We need to marry it with action. You can get trained and certified and get all of this stuff knocked out by the end of next weekend. And so if you want to do that, click that link, get signed up. Here's the other beautiful thing that I'll tell you. If you get signed up in our Jumpstart program, we're going to allow you to attend the boot camp for free. And Jumpstart's a $97 a month subscription-based program. There's a 3-month minimum commitment. It's where we do all of our business development and everything else. For those of you who are listening to me and you've already gotten trained and certified and you're not currently a part of Jumpstart, you can come in as an alumni and get this for only $95. All of that information, because I don't want to say too much to like confuse people. All of this information is on the link that's in the description. So this program, if you've never gotten trained and certified and you want to get all of this training and you want to get certified this week, you'll be completely done by the end of next weekend. It's only $247. There is no one doing this. And there's no one who's been in a position to do things like we do it because we were pioneers in online education before anybody thought it was cool, relevant, or could be done for coaches. We are the largest life coach training program in North America. We're the only school that gets to say that. And we're proud of the fact that we've helped literally thousands of people, just like you, close the gap on the kind of life that they really want. And so this is an amazing time to take advantage of what's going on right now, that you have some downtime, that you can process things and spend the weekend with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, let's get into some of the other questions that I attended coaching classes through JRNI, and I feel like they covered all the basics. I'm looking to further my education. If this isn't the right fit, what would you recommend? I have no idea what JRNI. I'm sorry. There's a lot of programs, and I'm not familiar with everybody and everything that they do. Um, it may or may not be beneficial for you. What we're doing this weekend is what we're calling a basic training boot camp. And we're going to have an advanced skills training that we're going to do live. And I haven't put any information out there about that yet because it's still being developed. And that's going to be probably a month down the road. But what I would say in general, and this is the important thing for me, because I'm not really into people just spending a lot of money if they have already gotten trained and certified and everything else. What I would say is look in right now in your life as a coach and what are the things that you really do need help with to take your next steps. Might be business development help. So Jumpstart might be the option for you, that you get in, if you haven't actually started your business or whatever. I think that there are nuggets and there are great things that I could take away from any training. But what I will tell you is that for 20 years, I've been doing continuing education for myself. And every now and then it's worth it to go somewhere and get some nuggets and get inspired. And essentially what you're doing is you're doing some of those exercises that you haven't put in. Somebody talks about something in a new way and reframes things or whatever. And so continuing education, if you want to look at it like that, might be really beneficial if you're wanting to sharpen some skills or whatever. But I would really, since you've already been through a training and certification program, all of that stuff, then what it might mean is that, hey, if you haven't started your business yet, we might be able to fill that gap for you. And of course, if you do Jumpstart, you get the boot camp included as well. So hopefully that's helpful. Marissa says, I'm a coach that works with childcare providers and I really enjoy it and have thought about starting doing it on my own part-time, but I'm not a business person and all the business aspects make me nervous. I don't normally take lots of risk, but I think I might really enjoy this. Any advice to help me with the business nerves? Well, the first thing that I'll tell you is that it's normal. I'm an introvert. I know I don't come off like an introvert because I'm loud, but the other thing is that I'm surrounded by people and I can't see them. So that works for me. Works for me to be on a platform and in certain settings and one-on-one with people. That really works. But I'd never, when I started my practice, I'd never done business before. Most coach training schools do not teach you business, and that in coaching it's 90% business. It's 10% the skills that you learn. It's 90% being able to be out there and make a connection with people. I don't think that starting a coaching practice is hard. It's not rocket science. There's much harder businesses out there, and you can be profitable in your first week or two as a coach. And so it's not hard from that standpoint. And so all of this to say that, I've heard for years coaches say, I'm not a business person. I'm not wired as a business person. Well, what you do in that case, which is great in the sense that, hey, there's some basic foundational business concepts that you do need to understand. But what I would say is that coaching is a relationship business. And I find that people who are coaches or who are wired as coaches have a high degree of emotional intelligence, and they really like people and they really like making connections, but they don't like selling. And that's great for you to not want to be, oh, I don't want to be salesy. You don't have to be salesy, because if you're salesy, you're not going to get the client. You need to be relationship driven. You need to be, hey, I want to serve people. And as long as you have your hand open to serve people, you'll never lack for clients or money or any of those kinds of things. So that's what I would encourage you, is that I am the person who shows up. If I show up at a networking group or any group, anything, I sit at the same table the entire time. My grandfather had this gene of being able to walk the room and work it. And I'd be like, he was a master at that. Me, it's emotionally exhausting. I'm fatigued even thinking about it. And so what did I have to do is I had to go in and I had to have a different mindset about what am I here for? Not here to sell anything. I'm here to make connections with people. I'm here to build a relationship, and I could pull out a value for those kinds of things. And that opened the door for my business. And so really it's pivoting. What I would say, it's kind of a reframe on how we see things, is that everything that keeps people from going into business and everything else, what you really need to do is it's usually a perspective thought, because most of the people that we meet who are in business, some of them can be quite obnoxious about selling and their energy and everything else. Well, that's how business worked for them. But I really believe that entrepreneurship, we see more entrepreneurs than ever these days, particularly women, because they have the best wiring. No knock on men, but they have the best wiring, they have the best intuition for our business and coaching, and they have the best because relationship matters. There's all of these things. They know how to spin a lot of plates at the same time. There's certain things that are in what I would say, um, what I would call that is, my wife always makes fun of me because I can't do more than one thing at the same time. It seemed like I can't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. I can't have a conversation on the phone and do something at the same time. It shuts me down. Women are normally wired for this. It's just a difference that's there. And again, I'm not knocking anybody, and I'm not overgeneralizing, and I'm not saying anything sexist or anything else. I'm saying that women are just generally wired to be able to do a lot of things at the same time, and it wires them more effectively as entrepreneurs because all of those things are working together. And so sometimes when you see people who are in business, they end up being really salesy, and it works for them. I'm not knocking those people. It works for them, but that's how it looks, and that's the operation for them. And what I'm saying is that people can be entrepreneurs regardless of what kind of personality. You just need to wrap your business around who you are and make sure that you have your own personal value and worth established as you're moving forward. So hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully I didn't offend anyone with what I said. And see. Elron said, I'm already in Jumpstart. Actually, if you go inside the online community, there is a link for Jumpstart students to be able to register. It's separate from the website. So just go on the online community where everybody's posting and all of that stuff, and you're going to find the link there. It's just a special separate link. We didn't put it publicly because it just confuses people. All right, let's see. Marissa says, thanks. That helps a lot. Kaya says, thank you. Awesome. Let me see what other questions that we have on here. Joanna says, awesome. I really want to help people overcome self-limiting beliefs, feel empowered, and crush their goals. That's excellent. That's exactly what coaching does. Corina says, are we going to be officially certified after the last day of boot camp? How will this work? I'm currently working on Jumpstart courses. Well, here's the thing is that you still have to take the exam. Okay. So that'll be available for you. Matter of fact, if you're already in Jumpstart, you already have access to the exam and everything else. But what I am saying is that the people who haven't already begun anything, when you add on the entire boot camp, you're getting all of the training and you can take the exam. So you're already like done. Like you reasonably could get done this weekend and be completely done with your training and certification. All right, let's see what else I see in here. Todd says, my breakthrough is right around the corner. I will have a discussion with her and ask for her input and listen to her put it together a solid transition plan. That is awesome. Yeah, I have a friend of mine that has had a business idea, certain patent on a particular product that the market's never seen. It's unbelievable that the market has never seen this thing. And he's negotiated that thing out with his wife. And at times I thought, man, somebody's going to steal this idea before we do it. Well, the timing's come out perfect on when they launch this product to market and everything else. And so they're killing it. And he's a serial entrepreneur. So he's had the past where he's done his own things without talking to his wife and had conflict with her as a result. And these days, and granted, he's in his 60s now, so that looks a little bit different. He's learned over the years, And so I learned from those people since I'm only 45, which my daughter still thinks means I'm an old man. There's Christina joining us from New Mexico. Welcome. Lorena says, hello, Spain here. With clients who have achieved their initial goals, would you suggest looking into new goals to continue with the coaching relationship? If so, would you use tools like satisfaction indexes, or once their initial goals are achieved, how would you go about continuing with a relationship? Well, I think it's a simple conversation, but I'm gonna encourage all of you as you are working with clients there's something that needs to be happening more often than most coach training schools or most coaches say. Because what I hear a lot of coaches say, or especially trainers say, oh, well, get feedback from your clients every 90 days or get feedback from your clients after you're done with the goals. That's way too late. So what we need to do is we need to have ongoing feedback. And I want feedback as often as I can get feedback. It's the key to satisfaction in a coaching relationship. And what is the feedback that I'm getting? Well, I ask questions like, hey, how do you feel about things? Are you getting the kinds of support that you need from me? Do I need to adjust anything as I'm coaching you? Are you thinking about other goals right now? Is there anything else that right now you're thinking about working on that I can help you with? So there's feedback that's really going both ways. Is that we're always celebrating, and I'd say every week we celebrate, we savor the moment as clients are completing tasks, they're completing goals and everything else. But this feedback conversation, I don't think gets saved till the end. I think it's something that we do regularly, and it doesn't have to. And I have one more item on our list today is we need to talk about feedback. I need feedback. No, I think that you can hide it and be very purposeful for it so that this is an ongoing dialogue and ongoing conversation. So don't wait till the end. Find out what they're thinking about. And I can ask questions like, hey, have you identified anything else that you're working on? And this index that you're talking about, you can give a client a tool at any time. One of the simplest tools is Wheel of Life. And I want to check back in with somebody on Wheel of Life. Like what we would do in Wheel of Life is, let's say that relationships is one of these. Let's say that job is one of these. Money is one of these. Health is one of these. When you do Wheel of Life, you're measuring how happy people are, what satisfaction that they're in at any particular area of their life. We actually cover this in our life coach training course. So when somebody is going to work with a coach, they have goals that are going to come out of one of these areas where they're not doing so well. So in some of these areas, they might be running at a 9, but over here, you might be running at a 4. What I'm going to do at times is I might circle back and do that same tool again and say, where do you think that you are now? Before you were at a 4, where you're at? Well, I'm at an 8 or I'm at a 9 now. I'm doing amazing. Okay. Well, let's look at one of these other areas of your life then. Have you thought about one of these other areas that you would like to work on at this time? So this is the way that we can continue getting feedback on the job that we're doing, how they're feeling about things, but also unpack some ways to continue working with them. And I would say this is that about 75% of clients want to continue working with a coach when that first goal is completed. So the odds are really in your favor with regard to that. And I think our coaches, as we teach them about getting ongoing feedback, they can get an even higher retention than that. Feedback's your friend. Feedback's the lifeblood of the coaching relationship. So hopefully that's helpful. Let's see. What else am I seeing on here? Do you have guideline questions we can ask our clients? Well, obviously, you need to ask questions about how do they feel like they are supported. So the support question is going to be, would they like to be coached differently than what we're doing? Now, I wouldn't say that every session you ask the same questions. I would say in the ongoing feedback, these are things that we want to verify. Do they feel supported? Do they need to be coached differently? Because sometimes we need to make adjustments, especially as some people have overcome certain things. Now I'm not dealing with the same person. People can change really quickly in a coaching relationship. So sometimes I don't need to coach the person like they were coached 90 days ago. Things change. Goals change. Do you still feel like these are the most important goals? Because sometimes goals change. Because sometimes when people's limiting beliefs get dealt with, now they decide they want other things in their life, and this is not satisfied. So one of the feedback questions is going to be specifically, is this still something that you feel passionate about? You feel like you want? How do you feel like you're progressing? Do you feel like you're making progress? And what does that look like? Or do you feel like you're plateauing? We want to ask those kinds of questions so that we can figure out how we can support. Is there anything that you would like me to change in my approach? Is there anything that you would like me to ask you about that I'm not asking about right now? Those kinds of questions that are about support, are about goals, are about adjustments because we're humbling ourselves in that relationship. Those are the kinds of feedback questions that we want to find out how they're doing, where they're going, how they're feeling about things, and all of that. And it usually won't be just offered up by a client. We need to actually ask those specific questions. And if everything's good with them, then that's cool. We don't have to keep reaching, but we just want to have qualified feedback because that's what makes them feel more connected. And if there's a problem, you get a chance to be able to adjust it rather than it being a surprise later. All right. Lorena says, thank you. Very helpful. Corinna says, thank you. That's awesome. Kim's joining us from Saskatchewan, Canada. After the boot camp, do we immediately have to write the certification, or we have time to review our notes and write when we feel comfortable? You can take the exam whenever you want. It's going to be there. So what we want to do is that we want to pour into you for a weekend and you learn a lot. I'd say that there's probably a lot of people who would want to take the certification exam immediately, just while things are fresh. But you're going to have plenty of notes. You're going to have more content than you'll ever do anything with. And so think about this. You can take the exam whenever you're ready. You get unlimited retakes, so we're not going to charge you if you don't pass the first time. So just have that at ease. You can take it whenever you want. And as always, we do self-paced things around here. All right. John says the question should be, will completing the boot camp successfully give me all the training I need to pass the online certification test? I believe it can. Here's the only challenge about any kind of exam in terms of the way that we ask questions. We ask questions in an applied fashion, which is not just simple facts. Now, the way that we have the exam is fully online. It's 70 questions. It's a mix of true and false, multiple choice, those kinds of questions. And again, you have to score above 70% to pass, and you get unlimited retakes. So one thing that I will say is that it's applied knowledge, which is a little bit different than just simple facts. There are some facts that are in there, but there's certain things that are applied knowledge. And so sometimes people, depending on, now listen, I'm not a good student. Okay. I want to offer that out to all of you. I do much better if you just give me the book and I can read it and I can go crush it. Because I get multiple distractions. Like somebody says something, it sends me off in a completely different direction. I can't sit for hours learning. I'm just not wired that way. It's also one of the reasons why our program is designed like it is, with being self-paced, is you can choose when you do that. When's your best learning time and everything else. But most of the live coach training that I've seen was always going to be like intensive. And there's a value in it in the sense that, hey, you can get in and you can get out of there. And that works really well for some people. I sound like I'm not selling our boot camp very well. The boot camp is going to be amazing. I'm going to be on fire, like you shot me out of a cannon, and it's going to be non-boring, and it's not going to be academic like some of the training that I had to endure, in the sense that, oh, you're going to go to sleep or whatever. You're going to learn. It's going to be practical, and I do believe that people could walk away and immediately take the exam and pass it. But everybody's a different learner, and so some people might want to learn some of those things in terms of application and some of those things. Sometimes you don't get things, you miss something the first time that you heard it. And so I would, if I was going to take an exam, I'd review all of my notes and then I'd go into the exam. But especially knowing that you get unlimited retakes, it's not like college where you get one shot to get this thing right and you're going to have to pay a big fee to retake it or whatever. It's not like that. So knowing me as a hacker, I'd go to the boot camp thing, look over my notes for probably 10 minutes, jump in and see and give it a go. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, now I know what I need to study. So that's my wiring. It's just not the wiring of everybody who's out there. I'd say, generally speaking, most coaches are voracious learners. So they're gonna read and they're gonna study everything they possibly can before they take an exam. So that's just what I found. All right. See, thank you. All right, cool. Let's see. Let me go back in time. Joanna says, hi, Paul. Joe from Jamaica. How do you know when you've arrived at the root of your client's issue? Should we do fillers if our coaching sessions tend to finish before time? That's two questions. The second question is no. Why would you do a filler? If you're done, you're done. I had a client not too long ago that it was it's very expensive to work with me one-on-one. I don't even share my fees out there because it would blow most people out of the water. And this particular client paid a lot of money to be sitting down with me. And we got done early, like super early. Like we got done so early that he didn't even do the last session with me. Like I'd said that, hey, I'm here and we're going to at least plan for this, but we got done because it's about the goal. It's about the result. It's not about fillers. It's not about working hourly as far as that stuff is concerned. And a matter of fact, the next to last session, we didn't even do a full hour. We did like maybe a half an hour. And he's like, I'm ready. I'm good. I'm like, you're good? I'm like, sure. Okay. Well, I want you to think about it because you're here and we can go at it again tonight. No, I'm good. I'm certain. Why don't we go to dinner? Why don't we like pick a fancy place to go to? This is where this guy was. And so I want to coach people who are really healthy. Now, granted, if I sign a coaching agreement for a certain amount of sessions and all of those other kinds of things, I want people to get what they paid for, but they're not paying for hours. And that's the difference. We're paying for a result. Okay. And so I kind of look at things as use it or lose it. If they want to work on more things, if there's anything more that they would like to talk about or go after, we can kind of do that. But in my opinion, there's no obligation to just like sit there and just like fill the time, because that's what I got rescued from going into my own business as a coach, is that I haven't worked an 8-hour day since I left working for somebody else, So anyway, hopefully that's helpful. All right, let me go back in time here. There's Christopher joining us from British Columbia. Christopher, you were asking about more training. Hey, we have it available, so click that link. Maybe we can do something with you. Thanks for the insight. Lynn's joining us from San Diego. JP says, hi, Paul. Thanks for everything you do. We appreciate it. You're so welcome. Got Connecticut in the house. That is awesome. April, hello from Vegas. Thank you. You always have great stuff here. Appreciate that. Awesome. Let me pay the bills one more time. If you have any additional questions, I'll definitely answer that for you. But let me just pay the bills really quick. Let me go back in time. The boot camp is this weekend. It'd help if I actually lighted up the first slide instead of the second one, right? The boot camp is this weekend. That's April 24th through 26th. We're going to start on Friday night. Pacific time is going to be 5 p.m. That is 7 p.m. Central. It's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern. For those of you who don't like the time zone kind of factor, it's just what we're working with, because 20% of our students work outside the United States. I have had coaches who have joined us for live calls that we do at 5 o'clock in the morning, at midnight at night, because they live on in other time zones and other countries and everything. So I think that at least for this weekend, we can all kind of work together and have a healthy compromise. Okay. So 5 to 7 this Friday, that's Pacific time, we'll go in the first session and then get ready, because on Saturday and Sunday, we will have full 8-hour sessions. Now, granted, there's going to be breaks in there, but what we'll do is we'll start 9 a.m., which is 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. We'll start on Saturday. We'll have the exact same sessions, at least times, on Sunday. So we'll have 7 sessions total that we're going to walk you through. What are we going to walk you through? Well, here's what you can expect. We're going to talk about what is coaching. That means that you're going to have coaching, a strong coaching definition, and you're not going to get it confused anymore with counseling, therapy, mentoring, or consulting, or any of those things. We're going to show you how to listen on a transformational level. So a lot of you are still, as new coaches, are still living at level 1, and that's making it really hard for you to coach people. We want to bring you into a deeper intuitive level where you're listening to people, and we're going to show you how to do that. Also, we're going to show you the steps of a coaching session, building a coaching framework that actually gets results. We're going to show you how to cut out the fluff in your coaching session so that you're more effective, high impact coaching, models of coaching. We're going to show you a couple of different coaching models that you can use, the core skills and characteristics for breakthrough coaching. We're going to show you how to be a more ethical coach, how to ask powerful questions, how to build coaching relationships that last. So when I had that question a while ago about relationships and everything else, if you do your sessions really well, if you're an effective coach, you will have lasting relationships. And so that's going to be a focus of a lot of that time. Now, what is different? We have never offered this before because it is live. It is an intensive training. It's expanded training that isn't offered in our current life coach training course. So we're going off of the foundation of a lot of those things, and you are learning great things in that course, but now we're going to develop it. There are going to be replays. So for those of you who are like, I don't want to do live training, I don't want to sit in there for hours. Well, you can still register, and you're going to have that accessible afterwards. So you heard it from me once, but you can go back in and you can listen to it again if you're one of those kinds of learners or whatever. We're recording everything. What else though? Live Q&As at the end. We're going to do live coaching practice demos. So if you want to practice with people, what we're going to do is we're going to set you free. You've learned all the foundational stuff. We're going to set you loose, and then I'm going to do some observations. So as people are we're providing demos for everybody to learn, I'm going to point out what you can work on, what was strong, what was effective, what you can develop as a coach. And so we're going to show you how to be really effective, because a lot of times experience is the greatest teacher, and we want to be able to have that. And we've never, again, offered that before in our program. Life coach certification is included. So you will have the exam included. That cost is only $247, which is ridiculous for everything that you're getting. Let me tell you, this is worth thousands of dollars. What you're going to get this weekend for only $247. No one is starting a six-figure business for only $247. That's one thing that I can guarantee you. No one's writing their own ticket in the life by getting trained and certified in from a dynamic program that's internationally recognized, from a successful coach. You're going to be able to get that for this weekend. I don't have any shame about telling people that I have done very well as a coach, and I'm really good as a coach. And I'm excited about coaching. I'm still passionate about it. I've given my whole life over the last handful of years to devoting myself to developing amazing coaches, because I believe we need more coaches in the world than ever that are game changer kinds of people that help people close the gap from who they are to become who they want to be. And you can be that person. It's time for you to step into your destiny. And you don't have any excuses right now, because in this global pause, it's time to refine some skills, develop, and create. Santos says, Paul, what would you say to someone who is failing while continually striving to make something happen? Well, I think that you just answered your question. If someone's continually striving, they haven't actually failed, right? Can't fail till you quit. And so if you've had failure, or anybody that you know has experienced failure, what I would say is that some of those things are kind of like setbacks. I look at those things as, hey, this didn't work. I always have questions about why something didn't work. And some of those things could be the strategy that we're using, or it could be the way that we kind of applied the strategy. That's really the way that I look at things. But as long as someone's striving, that would be ridiculous to tell someone that they are failing. I'll give you an example. Every child who has ever walked the planet, every human being, every one of you who have talked to me, heard my voice, or listening today, or will listen, every one of you, you walk, right? At some point, you walked, you learn how to walk. Do you know that when you were a child, you never thought that you would not walk? You had an expectation when you looked out at everybody else at the world, those people are walking, therefore I should walk. And you spent a year getting your butt handed to you by gravity, getting knots on your head, busting your mouth, all kinds of stuff like that, all kinds of bad stuff. Like your parents could have looked at you as a child and said, man, they've got a huge knot on your head. I think this walking thing is not for them. I think it's really dangerous. No child has ever been convinced. What do? Is that they know by the nature of what everybody else, and the instinct that's in them is that everybody else is walking, therefore I should be walking. That's what we found true of every child that's ever been on the planet. Failures, not what ever defined anybody when it came to that. What would we define an entire year of growth? This was your first step, and it was Frankenstein falling on the ground, all stiff. That's not walking, except that it was progress. It was striving. It was continuing to get up, regardless of anything else that's happening. And the reality is that what I would say right now is the case for a lot of you who are listening to me, is that right now, every one of you, you have extraordinary ability to commit. You have extraordinary responsibility that you undertake every day. You just usually apply that to someone else's dream. If you get up right now and you go to work and you don't, even if you don't like it, even if you hate it, you get up on time, you go to work, all of those other kinds of things, you do that. You already have the underpinnings. You have all of the things that could make you a brilliant entrepreneur. But that fear of failure and everything keeps you from going after that thing. But you're already doing, you're already doing what you need to do to be an entrepreneur every day. You're doing, except that you are spending a lot of time doing things in many cases that you hate doing because there's a fear of failure. Or maybe the first time that I tried something, it didn't work. Well, those are the learning lessons. And that's the thing, is I'd say that I do less work today, not just an hourly perspective. I don't feel like I'm working. Am I working right now? I'm absolutely working right now. Does this feel like work? No, this is my passion. I am fully manifested and fully alive when I help people step into what they were made for. That's my purpose on this planet. And I'm happy that I get paid to live my purpose. And I don't take advantage of people. And people get a lot more out of the relationship than they ever technically pay for. And I'm excited about that. But I had to make a decision some years ago that, hey, you know what? I can't just be giving away all of my time, all of my dedication, all of my commitment to working for someone else's dreams. I think that my dreams matter. I think I can help a lot of people, and I'm willing to take a bet on myself, a safe bet. I didn't quit the job that I was working, and I started doing something on the side that ended up becoming, ultimately for me, I didn't see it on the front end. I thought, I'm going to find like one or two people who will pay me maybe $50 an hour, and I'll have some side income. That's what my goal was at that time. And the first client that I had, it was a complete accident that he became a client, because he kept harassing me because I thought he wanted to learn how to get trained as a coach, which I didn't know anything about. And he was like, no, I'm looking for a coach. And he's the one who suggested that he would pay me $100 an hour. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I'm going from, don't make close to this in my regular job. What is going on here? And you go from that to ultimately international coaches, like an internationally recognized program, and thousands of coaches all over the globe. It all started with that one step, and it was a safe step that I took back then. You can take a safe step, or you can take a crazy radical step. I'd say take an informed step, but right now, take a step, whatever that looks like for you. So I am going to cut it out of here. I'm going to head out for the day. Let me see. Is there any? Todd says, Paul, the real deal, Dabdu, coach training rock star. I appreciate that, Todd. I really do. I am a words person. Words of affirmation are my love language. So that's all I'll say before I make that weird somehow. Okay, cool. All right. Anything else I see in here? Danielle says, from Trinidad, great information. Awesome. Kim says, super excited about the boot camp. Awesome. Well, I'm going to head out. I will close with just putting this up here. Get registered. The link is in the description. You have no more excuses left. You can do this thing. You're made for this thing. Let's go do this thing together. We'd love to be a part of the journey with you. I appreciate you guys all immensely. Have a great rest of your week, and take care.